All right, so Earthlings Ed have a new video that went viral, and a lot of people's talking about it. I haven't seen it yet, and I've been waiting for the right moment. So I'm assuming right now is the right moment. So let's go to his page. Subscribe to Earthlings Ed. He's amazing. Look at this. 4 million views for a speech. This video will change your life. So go and change your life. Do it. The power is in your hands. Don't be afraid. We're going to watch this video right here. Student confronts vegan about indigenous culture. Look at the views this guy get. Let's like the video. And don't forget to like my video.
Hey Q, nice to meet you. My name's Ed, and today I'm at the University of Dallas with a banner that says, "Why aren't you vegan yet?" You've been listening to a conversation I've just been having.
Yes.
And it seems like you have some questions or some ideas or thoughts. So let me know what you think.
So my first question for you is, what is your opinion on the native tribes such as the Inuit who live up in Alaska, who don't have easy access to these fresh produce that you're wanting them to eat and instead rely on the animals they hunt?
Yeah.
Why is she talking about indigenous people? I'm sorry, I can't be pausing this video too much, by the way, because this is a lengthy video. It's 22 minutes, so my commentary it has to be short. But anyways, why is she bringing up indigenous people? You're not an indigenous person. You're not living the indigenous lifestyle, so I don't see why that's an argument that would suit you.
Well, the issue of what we do to animals is an issue of necessity. This question of veganism comes down to the options and choices that we have. So there are obviously people in the world who don't have the availability or the access to be plant-based or to be vegan, who are maybe in tribes and in indigenous communities where they don't have the access that you and I have, where we live with the means that we have. And so as a consequence of that, the morality of that situation is very different, because they hunt animals and eat animals out of necessity.
Right, it's about circumstance. Like, let's look at the circumstance you're in. You can go to a grocery store. Let's look at the circumstance these indigenous people are in. They don't have a grocery store that they can walk into, so their options are limited. So they have no choice but to hunt to eat, and I don't like that, but that's what it is.
But the point of me being here with the banner about "Why aren't you vegan yet?" is to draw on the fact that it's about you and I and the situation that we have and the means that we have, which is why it becomes a moral issue for us.
I mean, you talk about, us like we are not a part of these indigenous tribes. I mean, these indigenous tribes, yes, they live,
I'm part of an indigenous tribe? I didn't know that.
out remote, away from, civilization, but many of them, they don't see veganism as they don't want veganism, because
What about you?
I don't want to be vegan.
And why?
Clearly, you don't want to be vegan. And why would an indigenous person want to be vegan? Why would they want to try to limit their options when they really have no options? Assuming they have none. I don't even know what these people... I have no idea what vegetation grows around these people. I don't know how these people live. I just know that they eat animals and that's part of their belief system. But I don't know really what vegetation is available to these people anyway. So maybe these people should be vegan too.
Don't you want to be vegan?
Because, one, I have...
And why don't you want to be vegan?
Because, one, I have...
She don't want to be vegan because she's having an amazing time enjoying the taste of animal body parts and secretions. Everyone's having a ball just eating animals. That's the problem.
One, I have... I'm a neurotic, which means I'm very sensitive to certain things. So I'm already,
sure.
Picky about what I eat.
Sure.
And so trying to find
Sorry, I know I'm pausing it a lot. Before we give this girl slack, let's give her some kudos for actually stepping her game up and having her beliefs challenged. That's a big thing. A lot of people don't have the bravery to do that, so I do give her credit for that.
Picky about what I eat. And so trying to find a substitute for the nutrients that I need is very risky. So eating meat that I know, meat that I understand, it helps me that way. However, with these indigenous tribes, because you have to understand, veganism is very much a white colonized thought. It very much is.
Well, people say that, but then also people say that when you look at the roots of non-harming animals for diets, it's deep-rooted in places like Hindu cultures and Jainist cultures. And so the idea of abstaining from eating animals is very much deep-rooted in kind of like Buddhist, Hindu, and Jainist cultures, and not necessarily in a white colonialist process, at least.
Yeah.
Why do everybody hate white people so much? Like, everybody always shit on white people and blame white people for everything. Because of what? Something that their ancestors did, like, who knows how many years ago? So, if my grandfather punches a girl in the face, so that's my fault, right? Because my ancestor punched a girl in the face. So now I'm at fault. Now I'm sexist by default because my grandfather punched someone. I'm just making an example. My grandfather didn't do that. But I'm just saying, y'all need to let go of this narrative that white people are colonizers and they're racist and they're just like bad people. Like, white people are amazing, and if white people are leading the vegan community, then what does that say about white people? Veganism is the most compassionate thing that we can do, not only for humans but for other animals and for the planet. So if veganism really is a white colonial idea, then more power to white people, because white people are doing amazing right now leading the vegan community. That would just show that they care the most. If veganism is a message of compassion and white people are leading it, then wouldn't that mean that white people are the most compassionate people? I'm just asking. I'm asking.
Yes, but like in Hinduism, they don't eat cows. They believe cows are sacred, but they eat other meats.
Well, not many don't, and historically many haven't as well. So I'm just saying that it's not strictly true that this idea of non-harm to animals is a strictly white colonialist thought. So I don't know if that holds up historically speaking.
Yeah, historically speaking, it's not. But this sudden boom of veganism is historically colonial.
I don't care who invented veganism or from what perspective it's coming from. What we need to do is challenge the idea. What we need is more of these kind of discussions. What we need is for people to open up their minds and hearts to animals and consideration for the planet as well.
Do you mean by colonial in this context then?
I mean colonial as in the white colonizers, as in the Europeans coming colonizing half the world. I mean the Americans colonizing the West.
Like, it's an old narrative. Let it go, girl. I mean, you're not even black, and you have the most to say.
There's a recent surge in, white liberals who believe they're doing good and who believe, such as, you and I. And I'm not saying vegan is bad. Veganism is not bad. If you want to be vegan, be vegan.
Yeah, cool.
But when it comes to...
What is that? If you want to be vegan, be vegan. Like, okay, cool. I am going to be vegan.
Pressuring other people who don't want this and who have different beliefs.
Nobody pressured you to sit down on that chair, girl. You came over voluntarily to sit down and have a discussion or a debate or whatever it is that you wanted to bring to the table. You brought it to the table quite literally. So nobody forced you to sit down, but you're sitting here trying to play the victim like, oh, you're forcing it on us. Okay, you made the choice to sit down.
For instance, are you aware of the view of cosmocentrism?
No, you explain it to me.
So cosmocentrism is a worldwide view believed by many of its indigenous tribes in which everything is equal to each other. Me, you, the trees, the grass, the water, the rocks, the animals are all equal to each other.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but a rock is not equal to my dog. I'm just sorry, it's not. I've never cared for an inanimate object like a rock or a stick or water and compared it to it's not comparable. You can't compare that to animals.
I'm offended with that. And animals hear us and they understand us. And so with many people, such as the
animals hear us, they understand us. The problem is we don't hear them and we're not trying to understand them.
Not the Inuit tribe. There's another tribe in Alaska. It starts with a K. I can't remember at the moment. They believe that the earth was made by the raven. Their god, to put it in terms, is a raven.
Yeah.
But they hunt. They hunt elk and they hunt moose.
Yeah.
But they don't just hunt them. They respect the animal. They take everything from the animal and they thank the animal.
Yeah.
And they thank the animal in several ways. They don't talk.
They thank the animal. So they kill the animal, then they thank the animal, assuming that the animal, now that the animal is dead, assuming that the animal is going to somehow comprehend that you're sorry and that you're thankful that you killed them. Assuming that the animal can receive your thankfulness, if you will, what are they supposed to think?
Yeah.
And they thank the animal in several ways. They don't talk about hunting moose. They just say, I'm going to go out. Because they know the moose hears them. And if they say, I'm going to go hunt moose, the moose hears that and says, they're not worthy to have me.
Oh, okay.
They are not worthy to eat me.
Yeah.
And so it hides.
Because they presumably don't want to be killed if they're going to be alerted to that. But the point that I'm making is that I'm not in those areas of the world talking to indigenous people in those areas.
I love that he threw that in there real quick, because she's literally saying that they have senses and they can hear that someone's coming to kill them, and then they run away. Well, what does that tell you, girl? They don't want to be killed.
I'm talking to people here, and whilst we may make the argument that when we look at the rise of veganism as a popular cultural thing, it's kind of emerging from places in Europe, Australia, and the US. Actually, when you look at the growth rates of veganism in America, one of the biggest demographics in terms of adopting veganism are African Americans, and so to make the claim that it's a strictly white colonialist thing doesn't hold up, especially as white vegans aren't going to indigenous communities in Alaska and aren't trying to impose that on them. I'm here in Dallas talking to people like yourself.
This month.
Right, a lot of black people are going vegan, people of color, even a lot of Hispanic people are becoming vegan. People in my job who are Hispanic and black, they ask me about veganism all the time, so it's becoming a thing. A lot of people are, look at this, look, we have commercials. Let me skip it though, because we're not here for that. We don't have time for that.
But through social media,
But yeah, people are catching on. People are catching on.
Vegans aren't going to indigenous communities in Alaska and aren't trying to impose that on them. I'm here in Dallas talking to people like yourself.
Physically, but through social media, there has been a push of people saying, Inuit tribes who hunt beluga whales, which are not endangered in any way. People are saying that's wrong, you can't do that, and they say that is our only source of nutrients.
But at the same time, what?
If you listen to her language, it's a little funny. She views animals as nutrients. I don't know. Little funny language like that just ticks me. But yeah, animals aren't nutrients.
What can be easy to do, especially when we have views about a certain group of people, is we can take people from that group who kind of maybe portray views that could be considered extremist or views that could be considered impractical, and we can use those to try and almost, caricature the whole movement itself. And so I'm not going to disagree that there are certain vegans who will make that claim, but by and large, most vegans, including myself, have a more of a nuanced understanding that there are people in the world who have a different relationship based on the environment that they live in, and hence I'm not going to make the claim that people who are hunting belugas out of necessity to survive should be held to the same moral standard that you and I can with the choices that we have. And that's what's important.
You say moral standard because you're saying that them hunting beluga is morally wrong.
No, I'm saying in a situation of necessity, it's different. Like with humans. If I said, shooting a human is morally wrong, it is. But if you have to shoot a human out of necessity, then it becomes morally justified. So I can say harming an animal is morally wrong, but if you have to harm the animal to survive, then it can become justified. So issues of morality are always nuanced based on those circumstances, but by and large, the general rule should be, if we can avoid causing unnecessary harm to someone, morally speaking, we should try to pursue that option.
I don't see how anyone can argue against that. Avoid harm where you can avoid harm, and wherever necessity falls into place, then I guess that's the route that you're going to have to take.
What do you think about that?
I fully agree. And so my question is just, why are you here asking these people why we're not vegan? What is your reason for that?
Because it's a thing that we don't often think about.
Education.
It's an idea that most of us don't kind of consider when we're buying food. And most of us in society are against animals being unnecessarily harmed. And so morally speaking, we already agree that reducing suffering for animals is morally preferable. But when we go into a supermarket or onto an ordering app or whatever and we buy food, we don't really think about the process of what we're supporting because, it's culturally normalized. We've been raised with that. And so the purpose of me being here isn't with this kind of naive opinion that everyone's going to sit down, agree with me and be like, hey, I'm going to be vegan now. But it's to try and like maybe ask questions and talk about topics that people maybe haven't considered, and to try and get maybe a deeper reflection on those values and ideas, because it is a moral issue, and morally we do agree with reducing suffering. It's just that we haven't always thought about the suffering that occurs for our food that we consume.
We don't think about it. And not only do we not think about it, we fight hard to avoid thinking about it. Like, our brains is very complex, believe it or not. Like, we have very complex brains, and I think our minds is constantly trying to protect us. So in a way, it's like our brain is trying to protect us from those thoughts.
Okay, so I know, because I was raised in the Texas education system.
Yeah.
I'm sure many people here were.
Oh, sure.
We were all taught high school, like health class or whatever, how fast food was made, and they show us like the slaughter camps and all of that of the animals and whatnot, and they try to traumatize us and whatnot, and they're like, don't eat fast food, that's why you only eat, you know, real meat and whatever.
Yeah.
She said that her school tried to traumatize her because they was exposing the students to educational footage about where food comes from. And she took that as they're trying to traumatize us. If it was me, I would be like, I'm so happy that they showed us this, because I didn't know that before. Like, that's how it was for me when I became vegan and I learned all of this about eggs, dairy, and meat, and where all this stuff comes from, okay? I didn't take it like, oh, vegans, they're just trying to go out their way to traumatize me. Like, this is not something that's fun for us to do, okay? We're trying to educate people. We're trying to raise awareness.
That exact same process happens for real meat. So one, that's, you know, a whole issue. But you have the plant-based produce, right? You have, who are those, who is growing this plant-based produce? It's immigrants who are undocumented, who are being paid cents a day they are being exploited on their own reason. Yeah. Yes, animals are being exploited, they're being harmed, but so are humans. Yeah. And so you saying that, you know, what's, you know, morally, you know, overall better to have plant-based, that's also, like, it's a gray area, because you're also furthering harm on these people.
So we have a very imperfect system, not just agriculturally speaking, but just generally speaking. There is a huge amount of exploitation that happens in all different systems, and that's unfortunately a thing that needs to be challenged. So I will never say that veganism is perfect, that plant-based production is perfect. It isn't. What it is it's a reduction of harm. And the reason it's a reduction of harm is because everything you just described in terms of what's happening to humans happens in the animal farming industries as well. Everything you did.
Look at her face. Like, check out her face, yo. She just knows that she's being slammed with the truth no matter what she says. He has an amazing rebuttal to it. It's like, instead of trying to, it's like she's thinking of ways to just go against it. Like, just listen to what he's saying, and if it makes sense, apply it. But stop trying to think of ways to go against it. Like, look at her face. Like, she's just not having it.
It's a reduction of harm. And the reason it's a reduction of harm is because everything you just described in terms of what's happening to humans happens in the animal farming industries as well. It's the same people growing the feed for the animals. It's the same people working in the factory farms and undocumented migrants. And it's those people working in slaughterhouses. And slaughterhouse work has been shown to increase rates of PTSD, mental health problems, suicide, drug and alcohol abuse. So
yeah, because when you're slitting innocent animals' throats all day long and you're dealing with nothing but bloodshed and screaming and fear, then, all of that is going to take a toll on you. Any psychologist or pathologist would tell you that people who hurt animals, they go on to harm humans as well. So a lot of these men that she's talking about, a lot of these immigrants that she keep mentioning and bringing up, she says that she cares about them, but these are the same people that's working in slaughterhouses, slitting throats all day long, hearing the screams and the blood of animals. And this is traumatizing them. They go home, they beat their wives, beat their kids. Sometimes they even kill their wives and kids. And not just that, it's a fast chain. It's a dangerous process. It's like everything in the slaughterhouse is like fast. I read the book Slaughterhouse, by the way. I forgot who's the author, but whatever.
The situation of animal farming also causes intense human suffering, and in many ways the same, and also with an add-on of what happens in a slaughterhouse. So it's a reduction of suffering, but it doesn't mean we should stop there. We should challenge that, and what we need is a plant-based food system that takes out the animal suffering and challenges that suffering of humans as well, to create a fairer system for everyone.
I agree. Have you considered going about it perhaps the other way, saying we need to focus on humans first. We need to focus on getting these undocumented immigrants,
Humans first, animals second. I'm pretty sure I heard that before. I just don't know where. It's just annoying. Like, humans first, then animals second. It's like, people and their ideas, like, your ideas suck. Like, you say humans first and animals second, but humans carry way too much baggage. We're too complicated. We have too many problems in this world for us to be trying to say, well, we're gonna fix all the human problems in the world first and then we'll get to the animals. You know it's not gonna happen. And the reason why people want to say humans first, animals second, is because if we focus on the humans, it's gonna be like a never-ending thing. You know what I'm saying? It's never gonna end with humans. So people will just be eating animals while pretending to be for human rights.
that, making them welcome in this country, giving them fair pay, giving them fair rights, all of these things, making them not fear being deported, because then once you get their support, they'll be much more likely to help us in reducing the harming of animals. They'll be able to help us, say, to go on strike against these slaughter facilities. It's all about how you go about things. Yes.
We can do both at the same time. We can do both at the same time, though, is the argument I'd make. But we can tackle
both at the same time. Does that sound hard? We can do both at the same time. It's called multitasking. It's called, if you can easily make a donation to save a child and easily make a donation to save an animal, I don't see how that's an impossible thing to achieve. That's not an impossible goal to meet.
This animal exploitation and the human animal exploitation at the same time, and create a system which is growing plants which is best for animals and takes into consideration the rights these humans deserve, so that we create a fairer system for everyone.
In a perfect world, we can go about it at the same time. This is not a perfect world, and
I don't know what she's thinking, but yes, you're stopping two things at once. You're stopping the man from doing the stabbing, and you're stopping the animal from getting stabbed. Literally, you go vegan, you do two things at the same time. And she's saying, only in a perfect world this can happen.
But it's incredibly difficult, whatever, so we might as well try to do that. And the first thing we can do is abstain from the animal products, and then with our time, if this is something like you yourself clearly care about, and for a righteous and just reason, we can take out the animals and then campaign to create accountability for farmers to make sure that they're treating humans right. Of course it's going to be a challenge, but it's a challenge whichever route we take, so let's take the route that gets us to where we want to be for the benefit of everyone.
But how many plant farmers are really traumatized and exploited on plant farms? And I'm not saying that that's impossible. I'm not trying to dismiss that as something that's a possibility. Maybe they are exploited. Maybe they are underpaid. But are they dealing with blood all day long? Are they dealing with screaming in their ears all day long? Y'all need to go watch Dominion. Y'all need to go watch Earthlings. So if these workers are on plant farms, can it really be that bad?
But it's a challenge whichever route we take, so let's take the route that gets us to where we want to be for the benefit of everyone.
I mean, either way, you're going for the benefit of everyone. That way is just your worldview. You're wanting to help the animals first and then humans second.
We can do both at the same time.
How many times do he have to say we can do both at the same time? He literally said that like 5 times. She's the one who came out of nowhere talking about humans first, animals second. This is what she said. First thing she said was humans first, animals second. So that was your idea, to put humans first and then animals second. He said, no, we can help both of them at the same time. That would be an even better idea. That was his suggestion, to help humans and animals at the same time. He put that idea forward. Now you're coming back saying, oh no, you're saying animals first and humans second. No, sweetie. Don't gaslight. You're the one who said humans first, animals second. And don't say he's the one who said animals first, humans second. He said we can save humans and animals at the same time. He made that pretty clear.
Yes, but you are deliberately going animals first, slaughterhouses, then to the agricultural plants. It doesn't matter if you're also helping humans in that slaughterhouses, your main focus is those animals, is it not?
My main focus is to create a better agricultural system for everyone, and veganism is that, because veganism isn't just about consuming plants, it's about creating a system that reduces exploitation, and that's not just to non-human animals. So as a vegan, I wouldn't be, if we had a situation where it was just plant-based agriculture, but everything you're describing still exists, well, as vegans, I would hope, and I certainly would as a vegan, think, well, this isn't where we want to be. So I'm not saying that it's about just animals, I'm saying it's about humans as well. But we shouldn't just say, hey, let's try and help the humans in slaughterhouses, but not help the animals in slaughterhouses, when we can help animals and humans in slaughterhouses by not paying for it, and then help those workers.
You don't get plant-based products from those type of companies? Do you know those companies that do that? Are you avoiding that, or are you still buying from those companies?
Well, the supply chain is murky, isn't it? And so I can't sit here and say honestly that I don't pay for that to happen, because I can't honestly say that. But that doesn't mean that I agree with it. And if I had the choice in front of me in a supermarket to say, hey, this comes from here and this comes from here, if I had that choice, I would buy that. But we don't have that choice yet, because the supply chains are so, ubiquitously bad.
Yeah,
so we need to challenge that as well.
Meat-based products. There are companies that do that, but there are also companies that don't. There are organically grown.
But they still cause harm. They still end up in the same slaughterhouses. They're still killed in the same way.
No. I'm talking about those that are like very local, very.
Yeah, I know.
They kill animals again in a humane way. Again, the idea is that.
Humane. Like, there's no such thing as killing someone in a humane way. Like, y'all need to give it up with this. Another idea that needs to be gave up on. Humane killing, humane slaughter. How do you kill someone who don't want to die, have no desire to die at all, in a humane way? Already, you're removing the humane part by removing the right to life. Literally bringing them into the world to force them out of it. And that's humane?
Yeah, I know.
They kill animals again in a humane way. Again, the idea is that.
But what does humane mean? When we say humane,
if you kill them in a humane way where they don't feel pain,
I love it. She said, you can kill animals in a humane way. He's like, oh, okay, so what does humane mean? She's like, oh yeah, sure, it means humane. Yeah, that explains it.
In a halal way, right? They don't feel pain, where they are cooked a certain way, right? They don't have any added stuff, any non.
What is halal? How do they kill animals halal?
They kill them without pain.
How describe the process?
I could not tell you specifically because I am not Muslim.
But you can tell me that they die without pain, but you can't tell me how they're killed.
Yes, because I have Muslim friends and I ask them, I'm like, what does halal mean? They say basically they're killed in a very specific way where they, as less pain as possible.
Can I tell you how they're killed?
So if you pay attention to what she was saying, first she said they're killed without pain. Now she's saying they're killed with as little pain as possible. So is there pain or is there not pain?
As possible.
Can I tell you how they're killed? They have their throats cut, but they're not rendered unconscious. So they're conscious and they have their throats cut.
Is that how they're killed in the halal way?
Yeah. Kosher and halal, that's what it means.
But, okay, so, again, that's all about anatomy.
You think that's not...
She's like, okay, yeah, so, okay, what? Now what?
What?
Who are you?
I'm Billy Eichner.
And, okay, all right, so... And is this like TV or?
Yeah, this is like television, yeah.
What television?
Like Billy on the Street.
Oh, okay. So are you an internet thing?
No, it's actually a TV thing and an internet thing.
I don't like your attitude.
Okay, I don't like yours. I'm on TV.
Who gives a shit?
Who gives a shit about you, bitch?
Now what? Okay, girl, what's all this attitude? All right, fine, sure.
Sounds compassionate.
It's more compassionate than other ways of killing them.
It is, but is it more compassionate than not killing them?
They're gonna... The base of the problem is, if you have respect for the animal, right?
Can you respectfully cut their throat for an unnecessary reason?
If you have respect for animals, you leave them alone. You don't slice their throats open and then say that they're dying in a way that's as little pain as possible.
You can respectfully
that's what indigenous people do.
It's not good to lie.
Can you respectfully cut their throat for an unnecessary reason? You
That's
can
what
respectfully
indigenous
cut...
people do. Indigenous people hunt in a respectful way.
But people who buy meat from slaughterhouses when they don't have to.
From slaughterhouses, no. But again, if you go from organically sourced, very small companies, their meat is expensive because they are so small. But
it's still killed in the same way, though. They may be raised slightly different, but they're still killed in the same way. The standards still apply. Halal, kosher, or even just the USDA, humane regulations. It's the same in all slaughterhouses.
So they're raised in the same way. They still are able to have a better life. They're able to go out in the pastures and they're able to live life as a cow.
Sure, and then they have their throats slit open.
They're still killed in a slaughterhouse.
But you can kill them. I'm saying you can kill them in the cosmocentric worldview. You can kill them in a respectful way, where you thank the animal, where you.
No, it's. What do you mean you can kill them in a respectful way? You mean you can kill them in a way where you can sleep better at night? Because that's what it is, girl. This have nothing to do with respect for animals. This have everything to do. See, the reason why they have to thank the animals is so that when they go to bed at night, they can feel better about killing animals. But if they don't thank the animals and then they feel like, oh, we're just being greedy, we're being gluttonous, and we're being just vicious, like we're killing these animals and we don't even thank them, we have to thank their bodies, because this is going to be an altruistic act.
Help the animal. Does us thanking the animal
in a
help the
cosmocentric worldview? Yes, it does.
But would it not be better just to eat the plants?
No, because
morally there's no difference.
Has to remain balanced. So
there's no balance in animal farming. Animal farming destroys balance. It destroys the environment. We're artificially breeding animals into existence. We're selectively breeding them, giving them hormones, and then we're killing them in slaughterhouses. But we're talking about slaughterhouses right now.
I'm not talking about slaughterhouse. I'm talking about locally grown ranges,
which
right?
still go to the same slaughterhouses.
They do not go to the same slaughterhouses, my dude.
They do. They may be raised differently, but they're killed in the same ways. They're killed in the same methods with the same techniques. They're killed in the same ways,
but they do not go to slaughterhouses. They stay at the ranch. These are their own meat suppliers. They grow and kill their own meat.
They may have local slaughterhouses, but it doesn't matter. They're killed in the exact same way. They may not go to some of the big industrial Smithfield slaughterhouses, but they're still killed in the same way. And for that individual animal, the experience that they endure is the same, because the method and the action is still the same.
The action is still the same, but it's, again, least pain as possible, so they're cutting the throat at the right place where the cow...
She's saying this as least pain as possible. You keep saying that to convince yourself of that. Let's cut your throat open and let's see if it's going to be in as little pain as possible, or let's see if you're going to be screaming for your life. Oh, it's as little pain as possible. Okay, that's easy for you to say since you're not the one getting your throat slit open.
Oh, honestly, just falls unconscious. They don't feel
they bleed out. And are we saying that is it compassionate to unnecessarily kill someone else? Is that compassionate?
Someone else? No, it's an animal.
But we're animals too.
We are animals too, but we are different from animals in that we have conscious thought.
So do they. They're conscious. And if they're not a someone, what are they? A something?
They are something that, see, that... I'm trying to explain the concept, like, with...
It's not hard, girl. Animal. Something or someone. Come on. Kindergarten questions, girl. I can get a 5-year-old to answer this in like half a second.
Cosmocentric worldview and with animism, right? Again, something indigenous people, most indigenous tribes believe in. There is a difference, right? You have to understand that the indigenous people, they were doing this before.
Why does she keep talking about indigenous people? You are not in a tribe. Where is your spear? Where is your indigenous clothes? You don't live the indigenous lifestyle. Going to a grocery store and choosing meat is not an indigenous lifestyle. It's a Western lifestyle.
Us.
But I'm not so interested in indigenous people. I'm not interested in people in those scenarios. I'm just talking about the everyday person.
Right.
I myself am trying to follow the cosmocentric worldview, and so I only try to buy meat products that were sourcely grown, raised, and slaughtered here, right? So I know that they live.
Everybody who eats animals says the same thing. Oh, I only buy humane meat. Oh, really? So who's buying up all the other meat? Or is it just rotting on the shelves? Because I actually work at a grocery store and people are just buying up all the meats. It don't matter. Humane, local, standard. It don't matter. They're buying up all the meats.
Living their full life. They were not stuck in 2x2 pens or whatever, but they were still respected, right?
But they don't live their full life. They're killed, cows can live to 20, 25. They're killed at 12 to 24 months. And respect is a mutual thing. When you sat down with me, we've had a respectful conversation because we've listened, we've engaged with each other. We haven't shouted over each other, we haven't cursed, we haven't been nasty, and that's respectful because it's a mutual. I'm trying to understand your thoughts and your feelings, and I feel like you're reciprocating and doing the same for me.
I think Earthlings Ed is just incredible. He's amazing. He's goals. Like, everyone should like inspire to be more like this guy. Kudos to Earthlings Ed. Go subscribe to him.
But what we do to animals isn't respectful because it's a non-consensual thing. We force them into these environments for something that we
Not
want.
necessarily non-consensual. Again, with the cosmocentric worldview, the moose will gladly give himself up to the hunter.
Does the cow gladly walk into the slaughterhouse and present their throat?
No, technically, no. But a cow is different from a moose in that they are domestic.
Sure,
right?
but they're still sentient, they still have feelings. To domesticate just means that we've kind of like, given them certain traits to make them more passive so we can farm them, but they're still inherently the sentient, conscious beings, just like the moose and the elks and other animals in the wild.
Yes, but it's hard to explain if I don't have my notes with me, but there is that nuanced difference that many indigenous tribes have followed. You have, for instance, the Comanche tribes, right, who hunted buffalo or the bison. They hunted them, some could argue, in an inhumane way. They would chase them off cliffs. They would kill them. They would feel harm, but they still thanked the animal. They still took everything from that animal.
They chased them off cliffs, and then they thanked them. Nice.
If we took everything from the cow and put it to use instead of just taking the meat and throwing the rest away.
We don't. We boil the bones down, turn it into gelatin. We do use everything. We use blood and make it into different things. So we do use everything from the animal. But that issue of respect, again, I think you can do something more respectfully when you have to, which these indigenous tribes, they have to. But for most people in society, they're paying for animals to be put into a slaughterhouse when they don't have to. And these things have been done to these animals, and it's not consensual. They don't willfully walk there. So it's an unnecessary action that doesn't need to take place by the virtue of it being unnecessary, and we have an option that reduces that harm that we can cause. And that's the primary argument I'm trying to make, that we have a choice. We have choice, and when people have choice, that's when these issues become moral issues.
Would it be different if
Yes.
I were to say grow my own chickens and kill my own chickens and eat them?
No, because we're still killing them. We're still taking their life from them when we don't have to. So whilst that system may be preferable for the chickens up until the point that they're killed, that point still has to arrive. And that point is when it becomes an immoral thing because you're needlessly taking their life from them.
Don't she understand that the problem is killing? No, she don't.
I'm not needlessly taking their life, I gotta eat.
But you don't have to eat them.
I'm not needlessly taking their life, I gotta eat.
But you don't have to eat them.
She said she has to eat as if she's not sitting across from someone who's alive.
That can be argued, right?
Well, no, for most people it can't be. That's the point. For most people it can't be, and that's the point I'm making. For most people, they don't have to cut the throat of the chicken. They could just eat something else instead.
Yeah, okay, if you don't want to eat meat, don't eat meat, all right? That's the fair thing. But you trying to, you say broaden the horizons of these people, but really you're wanting to make them feel guilty for consuming these meat products.
No, I'm not.
What's so bad about educating people? What's so bad about having a adult discussion about where food comes from? I don't understand. And then she's saying, oh, you're just trying to guilt me. If you feel guilt, then that means that there's something there. That could actually be a real telltale sign for something alarming that might be going on in your actual life. Guilt is not always a bad thing. Whenever we feel guilty, we should actually examine that a little bit more and question that.
Consuming these meat products.
No, I'm not trying to make anyone feel guilty. I'm just having a conversation where I'm asking people why they're not vegan and trying to establish their views on it. I'm not trying to make you feel guilty. I'm just trying to ask questions and and respond to your questions that are authentic to my feelings and in a way that potentially allows us to reach some commonality, which I think is important here. So I'm not trying to make you feel guilty, but interestingly, guilt is an emotion which comes from the sense of morals. If we feel guilty about something, it comes from the sense of there's something to feel guilty about.
Right.
If I pick up a rock and throw the rock on the floor, I don't feel guilty. If I pick up a piglet and throw a piglet on the floor, I do, because I recognize that action is causing harm, and that's why I feel guilty.
Yes. One more time. If you pick up a rock and you slam it on the floor, you won't feel guilty. But if you pick up a rock and you hit the rock with an animal, you will feel guilty for harming the animal.
If I pick up a rock and throw the rock on the floor, I don't feel guilty. If I pick up a piglet and throw a piglet on the floor, I do, because I recognize that action is causing harm, and that's why I feel guilty. So guilt can often be a powerful emotion in helping us determine how we view something when it comes to that being right or wrong.
Perfect. Perfect. Well said.
Being right or wrong.
Last thought before I go to class. You were talking about picking up the rock, throwing it on the ground. Indigenous people see that rock as a soul. It has a soul,
sure.
Right? And so they also would not.
Okay. What was her point of even add? Like, what did that add to the conversation? Oh, indigenous people believe that a rock has a soul. Okay, I don't care what they believe. Okay, and if I don't care if indigenous people believe that coconut trees can fly and talk Japanese. What did that? What really? What really even did that add even to the conversation? Even.
Pick up a rock and throw it on the ground.
I'm not saying that I would do that, but I'm just saying that I would feel less guilty because I recognise that action causes less harm. And the feeling of guilt that you have comes from the concept that there's a notion of harm being inflicted.
So what I would encourage you to do is
Please.
to look into cosmocentric worldview, to look into how these indigenous people have lived their lives thousands of years before we have come to them, and recognize how they were able to hunt, but in a way that's a community. They bring the community together in a way that honors the animal, in a way that even with the cow, the domestic cow, they do it in a way that honors the animal. Even if they're being killed or not, the animal is giving up its life for us. We are
Nah, shorty.
thankful for that animal for giving us its nutrients.
Indigenous people that have to hunt to survive, I have no bones with. I'm accepting that people have to do that to live. So, like I've said, and just want to say right again at the end, the situation you're describing is not the situation I'm here to oppose.
No.
I'm asking people at this university in Dallas why they are vegan. Because they're not an indigenous person in Alaska who has to hunt to survive. They're a person who is paying for an animal to be unnecessarily killed.
It's not about, what I was describing then can be here at UTD Dallas. That's what I personally try to do. I see everything that has a soul. I try to treat every single thing with respect.
But you're appropriating indigenous culture to justify...
She probably respect rocks more than she do animals. She probably destroy more animals than she do rocks in her lifetime.
That's what I personally try to do. I see everything that has a soul. I try to treat every single thing with respect.
But you're appropriating indigenous culture to justify arbitrarily harming.
I'm appreciating indigenous culture.
But going into a supermarket and buying a piece of steak has nothing to do with that, because they're going through a whole process that's predicated on their survival, whereas us, we're not doing that. So going into a supermarket and buying a steak is nothing like what they're doing. The only thing is an animal has died, but in that situation it's justified, but in this situation it isn't.
I gotta get plus.
Okay, all right, thanks so much, Q. Have a great day.
I know you are mother effing lying. She got up and walked away. She didn't even say bye or thank you or anything. She's just like, she put the stink face, like, when you have, it's like she had a piece of doo-doo on the top of her lip and she smelled it and she was like, that stink. And she got up and walked away. But again, kudos to her for having that conversation. This video is very long, so I have to go. But I can't really give you the rundown, but I think we've already done that. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Give it a thumbs up and subscribe to Earthlings Ed. He's awesome. And more content coming later.